Awesome. Thank you very much, Haley. Appreciate it. And welcome everyone to the Beyond Trust presentation, sponsored by our friends over here at ATARC, who I want to give special thanks to for setting all this up. I know it's been a lot of hard work to get this going, so really appreciate their time and effort on that. My name is Josh McDonough. I'm a lead solutions engineer at Beyond Trust, and I manage our SLED engineering team. Very excited to be here to discuss how our privileged remote access solution can overcome a vast majority, in fact, of the scenarios that we've been asked to demonstrate for you today. Now, before we get started, just want to give a little background information on the company itself. We are Beyond Trust. It's headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, and operates across the globe as an industry leader for privileged access management, or PAM for short. The solution we'll be showcasing today comes from humble origins as one of the two legacy BombGuard tools, Privileged Remote Access. This is actually one of a series of tools offered by Beyond Trust meant to help manage rampant privilege found throughout most organizations. Now, our portfolio offers tools like privileged password management to secure privileged credentials in a centralized vault to determine how and when such privilege can be used and who has access to it. What we're going to be focusing again on today is going to be the secure remote access piece, which enables organizations to secure remote connections to devices within the estate for internal support purposes or even for vendor and external access without the need for a VPN. Now, endpoint privilege management focuses on controlling privilege across the organization through privilege management and application control, and once again, without the need for administrative rights on our local endpoints. And last, but certainly not least, we have our Cloud Privilege Broker, which helps organizations discover, visualize, and manage their entitlements across the ever-growing cloud infrastructures that we're constantly putting into place and ever expanding. Now, in terms of the challenge that we're kind of here to meet, as I was kind of reading through these scenarios, the primary theme that I noticed while reviewing them was how to control privileged access to remote systems, primarily in the face of countless hurdles. So the goal, from my eyes, was to be able to connect to anything from anywhere with features designed to maximize the productivity of its user. Now, all of this really needs to be done securely and with full accountability built directly in, out of the box, to ensure that you have reporting capabilities and auditing capabilities. And really all of these can be addressed with this solution, Privileged Remote Access. Now, in terms of who are we trying to get this access for, we can really give you a quick and safe way of onboarding everyone from your privileged insiders. So these are going to be your own staff who are administering systems on a day-to-day basis. But these days everyone's working from home. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We want to ensure best security practices when forming these connections to those endpoints for our staff. We want to make sure that we're hitting on all those security needs. Or maybe when we hit a wall and we need to kind of phone the vendor and get additional support to walk us through some troubleshooting steps, get them kind of into that system alongside us. I hope I'm not boring you yet. We're only a couple minutes in.
Make sure that we're staying muted, please.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. Good laugh always starts things off nice. We do want the vendor to be able to kind of come in and be right there watching our every move.
Oop, you muted him.
I'm so sorry.
It's all right. I'll unmute myself. That's all good. If you guys really don't want me to do it, I don't have to.
No, Josh, I'm so sorry. That was like
okay.
a misclick on my part.
Little lighthearted fun. It's all good. Moving too fast now. All right, hold on one second. There we go. Back to where we were. So taking a step back, when we hit a wall and we need to phone the vendor, again, if we have people that are supporting us in our applications and the different systems that we have in our environment, we want to be able to safely bring them in, but we also don't want to have to give them things like VPN access, admin accounts, or AD accounts, anything that would potentially beforehand, without a solution like this, be necessary. And last, but certainly not least, in a sigh of relief, our auditors jump out of various sessions knowing that we complied with our OMB memos. So this is a way of getting people into all the target devices that they need access to from a variety of different ways and really different entities who need that access. Now, there are really a wide range of benefits with this solution alone in terms of what it can provide an organization when they move forward with such an initiative. Now, these include, but are really not limited to, all but remove the need to be physically present at the target device that's in need of support. We want to ensure secure authentication practices, whether that's going to be, accounts that are unique to the system, accounts that are attached to different Active Directory structures, or multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentication, single sign-on options. These are all built in. We also want to make sure that we empower the users with automation tools and a variety of access points. This is also meant to safely distribute privileged masked credentials as needed to make sure that people have access to these privileged credentials without knowing what they are, but can still use them in these sessions so that they can jump in with privileged accounts. And most importantly, overall, we want to reduce the attack surface that we have across our organization. And again, all of this can be done through various methods of connecting to these target devices that are all available through this tool. Now, just to kind of put a few of these pieces together, first and foremost, this is an appliance-based solution with a primary focus on security. And again, we do not require a VPN in order to form these connections. The only true requirement for this product is outbound 443 for all session traffic. Now, how we can get connected to the different things that we have out there in the ether, wherever they might be, whether that's cloud-based operating systems or applications, physical or virtual applications that are on premise, any variation of the two, none of that really matters. All that we care about is whether or not the device, the target, is supported by our platform. So those are going to be your common operating systems like Windows, Mac, Unix, Linux, headless Linux. And then also, depending on what types of protocols they have available to them, we can offer different ways of connecting. So one of the primary methods is actual clients. So clients come in the form of jump clients, which offers kind of a one-to-one relationship. I have a single piece of software on a machine. I can jump directly into that one machine. It is a persistent connection that I can share with myself, my team, and other members who need access. We also have a jump point. Jump point is more of a one-to-many access where I can install this piece of software somewhere in an environment and use this as a safe gateway to then access other systems within that environment through native protocols like RDP, SSH, Telnet. We can use things like protocol tunneling and web jumps if we have, web-based applications we want to get access to. These are just some of the standard ways that we offer you to get connected right out of the box. And these installers are unique to your instance. So they're actually created and provided to you from that interface. Now, these clients can also be used for both immediate access to the system or through an approval or notification process. Again, we could have a whole manner of people that are trying to access these systems. Your internal staff, we may just want to say you are someone that we know to be trusted. You could just jump into the different target devices, no questions asked. You don't have to ask permission to do so. But then if you have a vendor who comes in, based on need, and when they do need it, you can either say, when you jump into it, we get notified, or before you jump into it, we have to approve that. Now, other methods, again, web jumps, if you have internal web-based applications, protocol tunnels, for visibility to other systems through specific points. These are just the different ways that we can actually get you connected to these resources, all of which can be paired with a built-in vault that allows you to kind of store and manage AD credentials, as well as manually input credentials that may be outside of that scope. And then that gives the users, again, the ability to inject these into these target devices, as well as check them out and see them in plain text so that they can use those and carry those wherever they may need them. Now, the solution also offers capabilities around access to target systems on OT networks. This diagram is just an example of a deployment to show how we could configure different systems to meet organizations' OT access needs. These are things that we can really expand our footprint and target systems that before we didn't really have that safe and secure way of accessing it, but now we can target those kind of oddball systems and still manage them safely and securely. And that's pretty much it for the slideshow portion of this. I'm going to jump into my demonstration now. So I'm going to quickly stop sharing and then reshare. If you could bear with me for a moment. And then if someone could just let me know when that pops back up, that would be lovely. And that should be coming up any second now.
Yep, you're good to go.
Fantastic. So we're going to talk about the scenarios now and the specific ones that we chose to kind of demonstrate. I'm going to walk you through how we kind of look at these different situations and how we can go about meeting them. So in terms of scenario one, this is primarily individuals working remotely on personally owned devices. Now, they're trying to get access to public cloud-based agency applications. Now, they want to access these through standard accounts, their normal accounts, as well as administrative accounts to perform maintenance. Now, their location may change frequently, where they may go. They're traveling, they're moving from site to site, they're at home, they're at the office, wherever they may be. We want to make sure that they always have access to these target applications. Now, in order to get this access, you could do this in multiple different ways. The first thing that you can do is you can give them onboarding in terms of pulling in AD accounts, creating local accounts for the user. But if you want to give them an onboarding portal, this solution hosts a URL, multiple URLs if needed. You can have different onboarding portals for different vendors, for different users, for different divisions, where they can go to this URL, put in their display name, username, email address, and then that is going to start the onboarding process. That gets sent to your administrators, you approve them, and then they get automatically put into their representative groups where their permissions are already defined. So those who come in through the ATARC, vendor registration portal, they're automatically going to be assigned to the groups that I have allowed them to see. In this case, I have an ATARC group, development and production group available for those teams. Now, once they're in, they're going to be able to get access to what we provisioned for them. So now back to the scenario, we want to be able to log into different types of applications as a standard user or as an administrator. Now, those applications could be a variety of different things. They could be applications that are being installed onto a specific target device. They could be cloud-based applications that are public-facing, that are hosted by applications, whatever it might be. We have different ways of targeting it. Now, for an example like this, a cloud-based public application, I have a web jump in here to a front-end URL that's hosted by an application that I have running in the environment. This one just so happens to be our password safe console. Now, if I'm logging in as a standard user, I can simply say no authentication. I'll put in my standard user credentials when you bring me to the page. But if I need to log in as an admin, I have my store and all the credentials that have been given to me so that I can inject it in as needed without knowing what that is. And then this will go ahead and move through that authentication process and that connection and then bring me directly to that web page. Now, one of the big things here is that they said they just needed access to the application. They don't want access to the operating system. They don't want access to anything else. We want to give them just what they need in the moment that they need it, no more, no less. So now this is just going to be the web page for just that application and just that URL. And now we'll be able to go in here and start managing that solution with whatever account we put in, whether that's an admin account or whether that's a standard user account. We'll be able to log in, and this is all going to be recorded and tracked, and we're going to have that visibility in the back end. So we can see that absolutely immediately once the session is over. So in terms of scenario one, again, it doesn't matter where those applications are or what they are. If we need access to the operating system, the application itself, if it's an RDS, if you're hosting an application, we can do that as well. And I'll show you that here in just a moment. But that's really where scenario one comes into play. Get the users in, give them access to what they need, cloud-based public access applications, whatever it might be, and then have them go on their way. So scenario one's very easy to move through. Moving into now scenarios 3 and 4, we skipped over 2. This is primarily looking at employees who are doing ongoing improvements into agency systems as part of the dev and prod cycles. So as new systems are brought in, they're put into their development environment, which is on a separate network than prod, same organization, same location, different networks. Now, these individuals are going to be maintaining these systems in development, and then once they're ready, moving them into production. So one of the key things here is how can we make sure that as these machines, as these target devices are being maintained and as they're moving between these networks, that we do not lose sight of them. So these clients that we can put on these machines, I have a jump client on a CentOS machine, which gives me that direct connection to it, unattended access to it. So now I can open up my command shell. I have access to this. I have a bunch of predefined actions and canned scripts that I can throw in this that I can just run automatically. I can manage this system directly in that separate network. And then as I'm getting ready to move this into production, as I change that network over, the account itself, the installer itself, is not reliant or dependent on its IP. So as that changes, we'll still hold that connection. As long as they have a network connection, as long as we can see it, then we'll be able to connect to it. So when that IP address changes, we're simply going to pick up that new IP address and we will register it here and it'll move it over accordingly. So as we move things from development into production, those are going to be easily seen, and we don't have to make any changes from our install standpoint in order to keep that visibility. And if we have any permissions in regards to our product in terms of grouping and access, I can easily move these systems into those different groups, in which case now different individuals will have access to what's in production rather than what's in development. So this is a way that we can maintain scenario 3, wherever these systems are, whether they're cloud-based, whether they're physical, whether they're virtual. And if they're in the same environment, different networks, we can move them from one to the next. We can move them without losing connection. And we have all this visibility to kind of maintain that from point A to point B. All right. Moving on now. The next piece covers 4 separate scenarios. We got 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, the main thing in here is that the agency systems are interfacing with another agency system, so something that's remote. And if we could just mute some individuals, that's okay. Thank you. So scenario 5, 6, 7, and 8, they're all looking at a specific series of events. It's really, you have one agency who's looking at information at another agency systems. Now, this is going to be for a background investigation process. And the scenarios come in the form of they're cloud-based, they're physical, they're a mixed batch of cloud and on-premise, virtual and cloud. So it's really just, with all these different form factors, can I still maintain and connect to these different devices regardless of where I am? And the answer is always going to be yes, because again, if we go back to what I was saying earlier, as long as we can hit the supported operating system or the protocol or the application, then we will always be able to get you connected. Now, in terms of scenario 5, where we're talking about both of the systems are public cloud-based, this is going to be something where you have things like, I have a application, maybe it's a VMware hypervisor, right? Where I want to open a web, jump into that, and we'll go ahead and log in. If I have an application where I have all my backups stored and I want to be able to find those files, again, we're doing a background investigation process. I may have machines with information on it that are in this hypervisor that I need access to, or I maybe need to pull these applications directly from a remote app that I'm hosting in the solution. So I have my backup solution right here. This is a remote app that's being hosted on an RDS server. So what I can do is I can come in here and I can log in and I can start pulling those files from this target remote system directly from my host system. So open this up. That'll start the application as if I'm at this target device, but now it's funneling it through onto the application that's on my host. Give this a moment. See if I go to my taskbar that this will eventually turn on my application. And there it is. So now I can log into this cloud site. I can pull the applications that I need to, and any files that I may have that were provided, I'll have access on that remote system on my host. So I can start pulling those files down and do everything that I need directly from this machine without ever having to really get up and move elsewhere. So again, going back to how we can kind of target these systems and find this data and pull that back. If we kind of take a look back at just simply connecting to the devices, if we need to find stuff or we need to pull data, file transfer and different ways of accessing these machines when we have the clients installed onto them is also very useful. I can silently access this machine without interrupting whoever may be on it, if someone's on it, and I can drop files, I can pull files, whether those are logs or installers or whatever it is that we need. Now, the other scenarios, 6, 7, and 8 are really just the same types of scenarios, but they're different target locations. So that doesn't really change how we operate, because again, it doesn't matter where they are. As long as they have a network connection, we'll be able to get connected to them, or as long as we have that line of sight via protocol. So this is really kind of just nice and easy ways of using things outside of the client, something that's actually installed on these devices, to have that visibility. All right, moving into scenario 9. Now, this is specifically looking at, again, a similar situation, but we have a situation where we want to target a specific type of database that's at a target location. So we could easily put a jump client onto that device and we'll just have immediate access to the operating system that holds the database. But that's like going after a fly with a bazooka. It's way too much access, especially with a privileged account or an SA account. So how can we limit that? If we can limit it to just the application and just what we need to grab that data, I can open up something like a protocol tunnel so that I can then peer into that environment over a specific protocol, in this case 1433. And that way I'll be able to open up my SQL Server Management Studio and get connected to that database at the target site. So as you can see here, this is my target. This is what I'm listening on. And when I go ahead and open up SSMS, I'll be able to connect to that remote database and pull the data that's necessary. So the whole idea here is, how can we give you just the right amount of access in the moment that you need it without overdoing what it is that we've given you? We want you to be able to do what you need to do, but we don't want you to have to do anything else or be able to do anything outside of that. So that is really the goal here, just-in-time privileged access. And last, but certainly not least, we have scenario 10. Now, scenario 10 is looking at something a little more specific. It's we're connecting to our end users, but we're having connectivity issues. We're constantly being kicked off for whatever the reason. So what are the tools that we have to allow us to maintain these connections and also reduce the chances of us being kicked off, right? We still need to do this work. We still need to get connected, but we don't want to have to go through the hassle of reconnecting every 2 minutes because we get thrown off. So what options do we have? So here I just have a standard jump client sitting on a Windows 10 server, or excuse me, a Windows, I think it's a 2012 server, 2019. So we're going to open that up. And this is my unattended access. So just jump immediately and no notifications, no approval processes, no nothing. Now, this will immediately open up screen sharing. But screen sharing is probably what is causing a lot of these connectivity issues. If they have a really bad network connection, right, we're sending a lot of data back and forth. So it's likely that you might get thrown off. How we can kind of reduce that a little bit is we can optimize the color. We can turn to black and white, really just reduce what's actually coming over. But in some cases, we might not even need to do screen sharing. There's 5 different ways that you can access the system with a client installed on it. Screen sharing is just the primary way that everyone expects to access a system. But we can be much more lightweight. We have the file transfer options where you can push and pull things directly from the machine. Command shell options as well, where now we can run GP updates without, if I can spell, without interrupting the user. So file transfer, command shell, system info, and registry access, we're not actually interrupting anyone that's on that system, and we can still perform the actions that we need to with automation capabilities, canned scripts, and canned actions built in that are available across the board. And so we'll come in here, we'll just do flush DNS cache right in here. system info. We can even look at the programs that are installed, the services that are on it. We can start and stop these services if we have the correct permissions with the account we're logged in with. So there's a lot of access that you have against these systems that is not going to be that heavy in terms of how we connect and the bandwidth that is required. And then again, registry access, everything that we do in here, right? If we come in here and we make changes to any of these, we're going to be able to show you the before and after of what actually occurred. Here was the original entry. Here was the entry that came in afterwards. So we come in here and make this change, right? All of this is going to be tracked. We'll see the session recordings. We'll see the events. We'll see what was targeted and what was changed. All of that is going to be recorded. Now, that's how we can make sure that you can get connected and that those connectivity issues are not going to be as relevant because we're not putting that much strain on the target device when getting connected. The other areas that I like to show in here is really just, credentials can be used outside of that for just being straight up injected into the system itself. You can have as many of these credentials as you need for injection. You can pick and choose who has access to them. And that could be a group of accounts that you give people access to or individual accounts that you give them access to. And I do not have connection issues, so I'm going to turn that color up a little bit. And another big piece of this is getting connected is just the first piece. That's just getting us into the system. We also want to give you a wide variety of tools that's going to help you reduce the amount of time you're spending on these systems. If we can give our end users, our internal staff, a bunch of different ways that they can really start managing and maintaining these systems quickly and efficiently, putting all those scripts that take 50 minutes to type out, you got to double check it 3 different times to make sure you didn't fat finger anything. We can put those directly into here. Launching applications and different things automatically, pushing out installers directly to the system, having all the privilege that you need to open these applications at your fingertip without really having to do anything and consistently throw those admin credentials in to do so. Privileged actions, because this is running as a service with the software install, I do not have to worry about Windows integrity. I will be able to interact with those privileged actions as I move through this session. So these are just some of the tools that you have available to you in order to make sure that we can close this down, especially when we're talking about vendors. They're charging you by the hour. We want to get them out before that hour's up so we can really kind of reduce the amount of time that they're spending in here. Some of the other cool things, again, these are just custom actions. I like the ability to hold the session when we're rebooting it so you don't have to wait for that to come back up, start the session again. This will actually hold it. We can reboot it into safe mode, into networking. We can even come in here and we can annotate on the screen if we're doing some sort of a training session, or if you have a vendor that's coming in and you can't find that one button and he's getting frustrated with you, he can go and point you in the right direction. So annotation on the screen, being able to lock people out of the endpoint so they stop touching their mouse when you're trying to support it, and a whole bunch of other options to give you so that you have the ability to support these people and these machines as needed immediately. And this wouldn't be a great tool if we didn't have collaboration items. So you can bring as many people as you want into these sessions and even invite people from external, so people who don't have accounts yet, to come in and see them. So there's a lot of different ways that we can get connected, that we can communicate and collaborate with our different teams. But this is how we would go about managing the scenarios that ATARC had provided to us. And that was pretty much it for the presentation. The only other thing I'd like to show, and we talked about this, I heard some wows when I was talking about reporting and the visibility earlier, so I'd be remiss if I didn't show this now. This is the backend management console. And like I said before, everything is recorded, every session, anything that you do. So you can come right back in here and we'll go to our today. And these are all my ATARC sessions that I was just showing you guys. We can go to details on one of these. We'll do the app. And now I can view the chat transcripts. I can view the session recordings. I can view the command shell recordings. These are going to be stored with a 90-day first in, first out, and the ability to download those for long-term storage. So now we have all of these at our fingertips, ready to go to view. And you can bring in people with role-based access controls that your auditors, maybe they can only see reports. Your admins see everything. Your average users can only log in and manage their accounts. So role-based access controls plays a massive role in the organization of this tool. then we'll go over and we'll take a look at our session recording. And while we're watching this beautiful recording, I will end the demonstration there. That was pretty much everything that I wanted to show. We did it with a nice clean 30 minutes. So I guess we can open it up for Q&A.
That'd be great. Thank you so much, Josh.
Yeah, no problem. And then Haley, okay to stop sharing now. And I guess, are we going to continue recording for the Q&A? And
We can.